Earnhardt Sr. needed Daytona, and Daytona needed Dale Earnhardt. Many came to Daytona, felt the speed, saw the danger, and were intimidated. He made himself feared and fearless, hungry for success, willing to skip the groceries to keep the race car rolling. Dale's first Daytona 500, 1979, squared off against the great names of the game, Petty, Cale, the Allisons, and Dale would not take a back seat.
Dale Earnhardt going to the lead, taking Bobby Allison with him.
As Daytona grew, Dale grew. Won 34 races here, nearly twice the amount of anyone else. But his quest for the 500 made Daytona more meaningful. When it came to action at Daytona, Dale was in it.
Big trouble. Earnhardt out.
This is going to cost Dale Earnhardt the race.
Time and time again, fate stole the show.
Earnhardt, something is amiss.
It became legend that his open-faced helmet was how he felt the wind, how he saw the draft. His victory in 1998 was a success story that took 2 decades to create. 7 national championships to his credit. That quest for the great American race was his holy grail. In time, it grew beyond just the number 3 car that fans loved or hated. He was unique. He was the intimidator. His son, Dale Jr., demonstrated that same focus, that same devil-may-care attitude.
We didn't come here to run third. We come here to take all the money.
Nothing changed Senior as much as Junior.
His dad is here first. What a moment.
Dale Jr. will always claim that he still felt his dad and the experience of those Daytona decades. It was something they shared. How to handle the draft.
Keep coming here.
When to take the wild slide for another slot. But Dale Jr. also learned the importance of the press, of the sponsors, of the crowds. Most importantly, Daytona gave Dale Jr. the hard lesson of what happens when you lose a dearest friend. And so, in the very next race at Daytona, after the 2001 loss, Dale Jr. returned to this track and won on the 4th of July, 2001. It was the mark of an Earnhardt.
Those images paired with this voice, it just gives you chills. I'm honored to stand next to not one, but 2 NASCAR Hall of Famers. So, Ken, when you look back or think back on the images and the stories, not just of the Dale Earnhardt Jr. has brought to the sport, but his father, and being back at Daytona, I guess what stands out to you for this weekend?
Well, I think it always comes back to focus, because no one had the focus of an Earnhardt. And I think he got that from his dad, Ralph, and he certainly passed it on. There's a story that goes something like this. Dale Jr. came home one night, teenager, brought some friends. His father was not pleased. Threw the kids out and said, "We need to sit down and talk." They did. And they talked about what Dale Sr. thought was the most important part of racing. This from a guy who had started out seeking success. This from a guy who was gut hungry so much of the time when he was a kid. And apparently he made sense, because Dale Earnhardt Jr. got it. He understood that what he needed more than anything else was focus. That he had to settle down and really decide if this was what he wanted to do. And when he did, he became like his father. And that pretty well is the summation of what I think he's all about. There are so many stories about Dale Earnhardt Jr. choosing to follow in his father's footsteps. When his father died here, 2001, over here on the east end of the Speedway, had to be something that would really upset anyone. And shortly thereafter, he came back down here to Daytona with some of his friends. And he came in here one afternoon late and went over to turn 3 by himself. And they say he spent 45 minutes or an hour down there on the apron looking up at that track, at that place where his father had his last moments. And he left. And that was where he put it away, they say, and was ready to go out and run through that corner, run through the 4th turn, and down here to the finish line. It's part of the Earnhardt tradition, and it goes back 3 generations.
Yeah, I can't put it in words like that. So following you and my dad has been the most difficult thing up here with a microphone. But what I'll say is that, 2001, when we came back here in July, there were 43 race drivers that wanted to win here at Daytona. But the one that needed it the most won that race. And as much healing as it did for him that night, it did the rest of us a lot of good, too, to see him be in that position and be able to handle that situation. I can assure you that he got a lot of talking to from his dad, and Dale Sr. didn't have to say a lot of words, but Junior understood exactly what he was saying. And it obviously resonated very well. And I promise you, I don't know exactly what it is that those 2 men had that none of the rest of us had at driving at these restrictor plate tracks, but they had something that no one else did, and they did it very well.
Well, thank you for joining us and putting your spin on that. And I love what you said. Nothing changed Senior like Junior. I think that summed it up very well.